Welcome back students to the lecture series on Introduction to AWS. As part of today's session, we are going to look at what can you do with AWS. So, to illustrate this, what we are going to see is we are going to take applications and according to the different needs and requirements of the customers, we are going to deploy these 4 applications on AWS, where we are going to use a combination one particular service or a combination of more than one service. With that we will get a clear picture how AWS can be benefited or how we can what we can do on AWS or need of AWS. Let us begin the session. We will be looking at some applications, just like one particular organization needs to host their web shop. One particular organization wants to run their enterprise application in their private network. Third, one particular organization requires high availability servers for their application. And for last case, how they can profit by reducing the cost for batch processing infrastructure, how they can avail all these services, that we are going to see. Let's begin with hosting a web shop, or else we can say e-commerce website. John is a employee as a CIO, Chief Information Officer, in a mid-sized e-commerce business, where he has been provisioned with a task to deploy their web shop or e-commerce site or website. Initially, they had a dedicated on-premise service which they used to run. Later on, they had hired some machines from a particular data center, and later on they found that the costing is pretty high, which is not feasible for running their e-commerce industry. So, they are in search of various other sources, and they came up with AWS cloud, and he started evaluating or else a comparison between when they had hosted on a data center and when they will be hosting on a AWS. Then what might be the comparison, where a cost, how they can be benefited. So, for this, this is an evolution process where John came to know that they need not to manage the relational database service, as it is fully managed by AWS, whereas when they are deployed on premise or in data center, they will be maintaining their website, along with that the database. They need to manage and maintain both these requirements, whereas when they are using AWS, then they need not to manage their database. Database is managed, monitored by AWS. So, not only this, but John wants more in their website, means when they are going to host on AWS, they require more benefits. Let us see how they are going to be benefited. If you are taking a website, just like a e-commerce site, we can have dynamic content as well as static content. Such as dynamic content, such as what sort of products and their prices. These are very much dynamic in nature. Products keep on changing, as well as the price of the products keep on changing. If you are going with static content, then it might be the logo of their company or else name of their company. Certain things on the website which will be static. They started to split these two, dynamic content as well as static content, and they had rotated this into different things using a domain name system. By this, what happens is there is a reduce in load on a particular web server. Not only this, they had enhanced, or there is an improvement in the performance when this static content is being managed by some CDN service on cloud, such as content delivery networking. We can look this as CloudFront. which is one of the service which is provided by AWS as a content delivery network. By splitting their dynamic content and static content, they got benefited by reducing load on the web server as well as by improving the performance of the website. This is first thing which they got as benefited, and second thing is they need to maintain less services, such as they need to maintain only their website. Apart from that, whatever services which they are acquiring from AWS, they were being managed by AWS, such as the load balancer, DNS, CDN, object store such as S3, simple storage service, or else Amazon's RDS, all these services which they are accessing from AWS, which are pretty much cost effective, as well as they will be maintained by AWS, managed by AWS. So, John, who is an user, he can be benefited to manage only their own website. Apart from that, no other service is going to be managed or monitored by John. This is the second benefit which they are going to get. And the third benefit which they are going to get is, as we can see that whatever website which they had hosted on the data center, they used to consume all the resources on from one particular hardware or one particular infrastructure. Whereas coming to AWS, we do have multiple virtual machines. The same application has been deployed on multiple virtual machines. Why so? Because they want to maintain the reliability against certain fault tolerance, against certain failure. They want their services to be accessible. Not only that, whenever customers are when there is a huge traffic on their website, they want to balance the load between all the servers. For that, they are having an access to load balancer, which will manage the load between all the servers. These are the two things which they want to manage. If they require more infrastructure, load balancer will be deploying more number of servers over here as per their requirement, where the servers capacity will be increasing. When there is less traffic, then it will be consumed, when it will be reduced, which is said as scaling down. Let us see our second application. Well, Lisa is a senior system architect at some global corporation, where her job is to architect the system, just design the blueprint, what sort of network or services they are going to use. As part of her role, she wanted to move to AWS services from a particular on-premise data center. When the contract expires, she want to shift her enterprise application onto AWS, where she is been working on application server as well as SQL database. These are the two major services which Lisa wants to deploy on AWS. So, this is the blueprint or architect which Lisa came up with, where she is being benefited over here. How? She has deployed a virtual network, which we can say as VPN, virtual private network, and she has connected with her corporate network using a VPN, virtual private network. She has deployed virtual network connected to the corporate network using VPN. And in the virtual network, as to monitor or has to provide security, what she has availed is, she has created certain subnets, where two of them are private networks and one is being exposed to the internet, which is said as public network. And if someone wants to access database internally, they can only and only access through the server, web server, or else wherever the application has been deployed, we can refer it as a application server. Only from application server we can have a connectivity with the backend of database. From nowhere we can have an access, as well as she has used a network address translator. Using this, she has connected to the internet, where the access control mechanism or ACL is being managed. Which particular uh, from which particular things they can manage the things, whatever the networking, such as incoming traffic and outgoing traffic. The traffic is being managed. Incoming traffic and outgoing traffic will be managed from this network address translator. This is what the architect she has been projected, and this has fetched Lisa with less amount of time, from months to days, to make this particular thing when she is accessing AWS service. This is one sort of scenario where we can deploy an enterprise level application on AWS services. The third one is high availability. In this, Alexa is a software engineer working in a startup, where she believes that according to Murphy's law, anything that goes wrong will be wrong. In this scenario, she doesn't want to prevent outages, which can ruin their business, as Alexa wants their service to be available to customers all the time. So she has come up with a architecture where she can avail the services of AWS for attaining high availability. How? They had deployed their web services, web application on the servers. They had hosted their websites on 2 different data centers, so that if one of the data center goes down, then there will be some other data center where their service can be provisioned, In both the data centers, they had consumed a web server and a database server, and these are made as a replica, which we can say as redundant, that we do have primary database and standby database. If primary database goes down, then secondary standby database can be availed to access the services, and this routing of traffic from outside is being managed by load balancer. If one particular data center is out, then load balancer will direct all the traffic to another data center. This is how they can avail high availability. And the last scenario, where some company wants to reduce their cost while processing their data, batch processing. Let's see, Nick is a data scientist who has an need to process massive amounts of data collected from various gas turbines. So, but the organization has given him less amount, and using this amount you need to process the data on a daily basis. So, he and his team requires certain computing infrastructure where they can avail this processing in less amount. So, what they have done is they had gone to AWS, where you can see here this black strip is nothing but they had consumed the services, and this white strip refers they are not consuming the resources are ideal, doing nothing. The same case over here, this is the resource utilization. This is a phase where they had utilized the resources, and this is a phase where the resources are sitting idle. They had come up with two various scenarios, where one, if they are going to host on premise, and if they are going to host on AWS. So, what benefit they are going to get over here is, if they are going with on premise, even their systems are ideal, they are charged for entire month. As the job is to process the data once in a day, but the machines which they are using, even if they are using or not, it does not matter, they need to pay for the entire month. When they had shifted their gear towards AWS, what happens is that the amount of time they utilize the resources, only for that amount of time they will be charged. And this is one of the feature of cloud computing, which can be treated as measured services, or else we can say as metered service, or else we can say it as pay as you use or pay as you go. All the three terms refers one thing, that when you are utilizing when you are consuming our services, then only you need to pay, and when you are not using, then you are not going to be charged. This is what they had got a solution, and they deployed their services onto AWS. So, at the end, let us summarize. We had been used 4 scenarios in this particular topic. In this, how we can reduce the cost, and second, how the services are highly available, and one, how they can maintain the security by deploying the service onto a private cloud, and one, using various services, how they can get benefited through. That is it from this session. Thank you.